Hey guys, Terry again. We're going to try to get you to solve the cube in under a minute. I posted some other videos that people seem to like. This is going to be, the other method was kind of my own method. This is going to be using the standard CFOP method. It's going to be taught as a beginning part, which is designed to teach you how to solve it using kind of layer by layer, not true CFOP. That's going to be the more advanced because that's doing F2L, or the first 2 layers at a time. So the first is going to be kind of gearing you towards the CFOP method. Okay, so it's going to be layer by layer, but it's going to be using movements that are going to help you learn and get to that stage 2 where you can start solving it, you know, closer to 30 seconds and so forth. So it's going to be based on limited movement so that it's easy to learn. For example, when you get to the last layer, for example, you know, there's going to be tricks where if it's a certain pattern, you can do, you know, maybe 6 different algorithms to get it. But we're going to try to do everything with like 1 algorithm per, I don't want to say 1 per layer, but like when we get to stages, we're going to do this in what's called like 2-look. So 2-look, OLL, and PLL, and so forth. And what that means is instead of learning a gazillion algorithms or patterns to memorize and learn and do these movements, you're gonna it's gonna split it. So it's not gonna be as efficient. You're not gonna be a 9-second solver or a 5-second world record holder, okay? But the goal is to get you to be able to solve this in less than a minute, okay? And that's not that hard to do, okay? And so to properly do that, though, you have to kind of learn it. You can't use some of the beginner methods out there. You just can't. It's just hard to get your time under a minute with those methods. So we're going to do it in a way that using the same theories and principles, you can progress. If you want to, you can solve the cube in, you know, 30 seconds and then maybe 20, and then you can get down there. So this is going to be, it's our upgraded video, and I think it is a better, like a 2.0 series, so to speak, okay? So the first is a super quick theory. I don't want to spend a lot of time with this part because I want to condense everything into one video and then do the advanced series with more moves in the second video and have everything in 2. So I don't want to waste a lot of time. So Rubiks Cube theory, there's 3 basic layers, you know, layer 1, 2, 3. Layer by layer means you're solving 1 layer first, so you're getting a solid color and all the edges. Layer 2 is considered this middle layer, which if you don't count the centers, because here's the thing, the center cubes don't change, they don't move. When you rotate, you rotate around the center cube, okay? So that's how you tell what color the face is. This is going to be blue, that's going to be orange, that's going to be white, green, red, yellow, okay? So when we do it, layer 1, layer 2, and layer 3, when you go to layer 2, for example, since the center cubes don't change, you've really only got 4 cubes, okay? 2 here and 2 here. So there's not that many cubes to solve, okay? So the first part to start with is, we'll start with white. It's just easiest to see on video. And we look for the white cross. Then we get the corners. Then then the first layer is done. Then we tackle the second and third. Okay, so for the cross, we're going to solve the cross on the bottom. It's the most efficient way to solve it. What we're going to do is, in this case, I already have 1 in place. I'm going to spin it over so that orange lines up underneath it. I'm then going to, I have the green cube here, green and white. So basically, there's the easiest way to learn it for those, because most people know how to get the cross already, right? For the people that truly don't, there's a couple tricks you can do, but for the easy part of the video, we're going to try to get the white up on top. So for this, we're just going to turn, so white's up on top, bump it over, and then put what we turned back. So if there was something here, we wouldn't mess it up. Once it's on top like this, it's a simple matter of rotating it over to the correct color, spinning it twice, and now it's in place, see? So we have one already turned here. This is red. We move it over the top. We spin it twice, and now red is in place. Orange is in place. So we have 3 of them in place. We just need one. The one we need is here. When it's like this, the easy way to do it is going to be putting it over the color. Obviously, if I spin that, because it's flipped around backwards, so if I spin that, it's backwards, right? It's not correct. The other 3 are correct, and this blue piece is backwards, okay? So I can't just turn it down, right? So what I do in a case like that is I spin it over to the side, so it's on the side here, okay? And then I do a movement just like this, because this cube has to go here. So it's kind of just a intuitive solve, meaning I know if I turn this way, and then I spin it down, and then I bring the right back. Now they're all in place, okay? So that movement on a cube that doesn't matter. It's always good to have like 2 or 3 cubes, so as you're showing, you don't mess up your cube, and I can show you on this cube here. So what I just did is I bumped it over, and then it's a motion like that. So get used to turning it down and back. So bump it over, spin it, and back. Bump it over, spin it, and back. That's all I did, okay? So once again, if that is like this, where it's backwards and you can't just put it down because it's not going to be right, okay? I bump it over, I spin, put it down, and then I bring this back. And now I've got my cross, okay? Cross meaning that green, orange, blue, red, they're all lined up here. Now for corner pieces, you have to know, I think they call it the sexy move or something, which is kind of funny, but it's basically, there's 2 of them depending on what side you're doing. They're kind of mirrors of each other. If we do it with the right side, this side, it's a pattern like this. So if you want to write down, if you're into algorithms, I'm into patterns and easy movements. I don't necessarily think in my head like R up, R prime, up prime. I just think it's a movement like that, right? But if you want to write it down, that move is R up, R prime, up prime. Prime just means counterclockwise. So R up, R prime, up prime. So that's the move like that. So you're just doing this move over and over and over again. The other side, the left side, it's the same thing, okay? So it was like R, boom, here, and it's going to be the same exact thing, only you're going to go the opposite way, okay? So if we had to say this side, it's going to be L prime, because don't forget, because it's a mirror, if this turns this way, it's clockwise. If this turns this way, which is technically the same way, they're both turning back, right? Only this is clockwise. If I turn the opposite side back, it's considered counterclockwise. Meaning if I look at it, I'm going counterclockwise, okay? So if you need to write this one down, it is L prime, up prime, L up. So it's just a movement. And you can practice by doing this movement over and over and over and over and over again for a long time. It's going to be a movement that you use a lot for your solving. The right side and the left side, okay? So what that does is that rotates. Like if you look at this particular cube, this one right here, and I do that move on this side, watch, this is blue, red, and white. Watch this cube. It's going to go to the corner, okay? Right? It's going to go to the corner, and it's going to keep going to the corner and flip itself around every time. Like now it's red. Now it's white. Now it's blue. So that rotates without destroying anything else. And then the same with this side. This is just the mirror, okay? So what that means, what does that mean to us? Okay, that means that we solve our cross. All we do is we take our corner cube. In this case, it's always got to be white, right? Because it's white, orange, and blue, and we move it over above the corner. Okay? So this cube goes here. Then we simply do our move. We're either going to do it right or we're going to do it left. Okay, the colored side, if white's up, it doesn't matter. If white's forward, I would use the color side forward because you're going to be able to do it in one move then, really. So watch this cube here, the same move puts it right in place. That same move that we've been doing, right? So this move here or this move here, you just do over and over with all the corners. Simple as that. Red and green, I put over it. Now white's on top, so it doesn't matter. I'll just use my right hand. I do it over and over and over, boom, until it goes in place. Simple as that. If it's already down here but wrong, this is down in the corner, but it's not correct. I simply do the move as is. I rotate until it is correct. Boom, it's correct, right? This one here is wrong. I'll do the move until it's correct. And I've got all four corners. Now I have layer 1 done. Okay, so now we've got layer 1 done, okay, with all the corresponding edges, and now we're on to layer 2. Layer 2 only, because the center cube doesn't change, it only has 4 cubes really. These two and these two, okay? So what we have to do is we're going to do a very simple movement, and it's going to be the mirror of the other side. So I never think in terms of algorithms, I always think in terms of patterns. So for me, it's just like, you know, flick up, flick back. And on this side, flick up, flick back. So that's how I think about it, but a lot of people need to see that algorithm. So what it would be, let me think here, it would be, if you're doing the right side, it would be up, right prime, up prime, right prime. So, or, I'm sorry, scratch that, up, prime, right prime. So flick up, flick back. Okay, so once again, up, right, up prime, right prime. And if we do it on our left side, it's going to be flick up, flick back. So it's going to be up prime, L prime, up, L. Okay, so I'll write that down if you need it. And how that corresponds to our middle layer is very simple. So we look for a non-yellow edge piece. In this case, here's green, here's orange. So this needs to go here, green, orange, right? So I simply take my bottom color, in this case it's green, and I line it up with green, just like that. If it were orange, it would be here, but it's green, so it's here. And then this piece can either go here or here. In this case, it's orange, it's going here, which is to the right. It's either going to go to the right or to the left. Super simple. If it goes to the right, that means I start with my right hand, and I do the pattern that way. If it goes here to the left, I start with my left hand. It's literally that easy, okay? So I do the same pattern that I just showed you. Since it's starting with my right, the entire process looks like this. I start with my right hand, and since you already know the algorithm, I'm just going to say what I say, flick up, flick back, because that's how my brain remembers it much easier. It's easier if you try to think of it in terms of patterns. It truly is, okay? You might need to refer to the algorithm so that you can initially, you know where you're moving. But then after you do it a couple times, just see what's going on. So say to yourself, instead of saying, like up, right, up prime, right prime, just it's literally like that. It's as easy as that, right? So flick up, flick back, flick up, flick back. So I line up my piece. It's going to the right. I start with my right side then. I go flick up, flick back. I then have created this little bullet looking thing, this white piece ready to insert. What I do then, I don't spin anymore. I leave it there. I turn the whole cube so that that white piece faces me, just like that. And I do the exact mirror opposite, which is starting with my left hand. Flick up, flick back. And it puts it right in place. Nothing else is messed up, see? So once again, I look for another piece. Here we go. Red and green. That goes here. So I line up my bottom color, in this case green. It's lined up. Now this, unlike before, this is going to the left. It needs to go here. So what does that mean? Same pattern, same exact flick up, flick back, only because it's going to the left, I start with my left hand. So flick up, flick back. I then spin the cube, this time the other way, because I spin it to white faces me. And I do the exact same pattern with the opposite hand. Flick up, flick back. And that's in place. Now I look for another one. Here we go, orange and blue. I line up my color. It's going to the right. Start with my right hand. Flick up, flick back. Spin it so white's facing me. Flick up, flick back. Okay. Looking around, I have one more. It's already in place. It's going to the left. It means I start with my left hand. Flick up, flick back. Turn the cube so white's facing me. Flick up, flick back. And the first two layers are solved. Now, if you have a case where, let's see here, what do I want to say? Let's put this in place and like that there. Let's pretend that, how can I put this in backwards? There. So let's say you have a situation like this where your cube's not on top. It's already in here, but it's in there backwards, okay? In a case like that, you simply do the move, okay? So if I'm doing it this way, it's going to the right, so I'd start with my right. If I do it this way, I start with my left. And basically, I just have to do the move twice. The first time, it's gonna bump this out to the top because it's gonna put this cube down there. So, right? Now I just moved it out. So there's my cube. I line up the color. It's going to the left. I do it again with the left. And it puts it in place. So that's all it is. It's literally, maybe it's easier to show on this cube because it doesn't have so many colors on it. I just took the stickers off this cube to make it easy. So flick up, flick back. Now I think it's easier on this, sorry. Flick up, flick back. Turn it, flick up, flick back. Turn, flick up, flick back. Turn, flick up, flick back. Turn. So I would, if you had to practice something to make this go nice for you and make you learn it quick, just do the same move over and over and over. Just take a cube that's, doesn't matter, it's scrambled up, it's not solved right. So you just take a cube that's totally messed up and just simply do this pattern. Flick up, flick back. Turn it, flick up, flick back. Turn it, flick up, flick back. Just over and over. That's all it is. It's just flick up, flick back. Flick up, flick back. Very simple pattern, okay? You'll get it in no time as long as, you know, you're just doing flick up, flick back. It's just like this. Flick up, flick back. Same pattern. Do this side, flick up, flick back. Okay? So that's the practice thing for it. So now that that's done, now we've got F2L, or the first two layers, solved. We have to solve the last layer. Now remember I mentioned to look OLL. Okay, to look means we're going to look for a certain pattern on top. And what that really means is basically remember the cross here? We solved the white cross. We're going to solve now the yellow cross. Now you have to ignore, because it's kind of pattern recognition at this point, right? But you're going to ignore kind of everything except the cross, which means this cube, this cube, this cube, this cube. So I do not have the cross because I need these two cubes. Regardless of what these are, these don't even matter. All I need is I need to have this one totally yellow. And what I'm actually looking for is this. This is my magic thing right here. There's going to be one move that you can do repeatedly, and then in the supplement to this, or the follow-up advanced video, I'll show more moves so that, because you may have a case where you just have a dot or you have a line straight across. And I'm going to show you one move so that you can only memorize one move and solve this whole thing. But it'll be faster if you know a few moves for different cases, so you won't have to do the one move multiple times, okay? So we're trying to find a situation that we have right here, this little L, where you have two of the edges that are flipped yellow, and regardless of what else is flipped, you have this L, okay? When you have the L, whether it's here, 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 whatever, you're going to put the L in the upper left corner like this. Then you're going to do this pattern right here. And that's going to get your cross every time. And what I did, once again, I don't do it by algorithm. I do it by just patterns. So it's kind of hard for me. What you're actually doing is, I actually have it written down here. You are doing front, up, right, and then up, prime, right, prime, front, prime. So there's 6 moves. Front, up, right, and then that's the first 3. The first 3 moves are regular clockwise moves. The last 3 moves are all primes. So the first 3 moves, front, up, right, and then up, right, front, all prime. Up, prime, right, prime, front, prime. I use my, my third fingers a lot for this kind of thing. So as I do it, front, up, right, front. See, I'm using these fingers and so forth, okay? So front, up, right, front, okay? So we're going to do it until front, up, right, front. So that's the pattern. And you do it until you get this, okay? So no matter where you start, when you get this, you put it in the upper left, and then you do the same pattern. Front, up, right, up, prime, right, prime, front, prime. And that gets your cross. You can ignore the corners. You just have to make sure that you get to stage 2 or step 2. Step 2, you do when all these, that's why they call it 2-step. The first is getting this cross, and the second, depending on the other pattern, is what you do after you have this cross, okay? So once again, so in this case, I have a line. Now there's tricks we can do where we can turn it all, we can get the cross from here, but for this part 1 video, we're doing everything with the fewest moves learned possible. So the fewest algorithms you have to know, in this case 1, right? So all I do when I get this, I do my, wherever I'm at. I usually, if it's a line, I put the line horizontal. So I wouldn't do it like this. I would solve the line like this. And the line, meaning ignoring this, you have a line here. See that? So I put it horizontal, and I do that pattern that I showed you. Front, up, right, prime, front, prime. So front, up, right, up, prime, right, prime, front, prime. And lo and behold, there's my magic pattern. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's like this or not. You need to identify this instantly, no matter where the cube's at. You need to say, whoa, there it is, boom, that piece right there. Once I see that, I put it in the upper left, and I do the same pattern I just did. Front, up, right, up, prime, right, prime, front, prime, and boom. Ignore the corners, doesn't matter which ones, unless they're all yellow, because that's the goal, is to make them all yellow, okay? Every now and then, you'll get lucky, and as you do that, everything will be yellow, but usually it's called 2-step because you have to do it in 2 different steps, okay? So that's it. That's the algorithm you write down. That is step 1. Follow those steps for step 1, and you'll get the cross. Step 2 is going to be called a move called soon, S-U-N-E. There's soon, there's anti-soon. We'll go into all that in the part 2 advanced video. All you need to know is, I do it with finger tricks kind of like that, but what it is It's boom, 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 boom. It's very simple, very easy. So, ready to write this down? It is. Starting with the right. It's R up, R prime up, R up, up, R prime. Okay? So boom, 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 and then bring it back. Okay? Usually I bring it back and spin too, because spin, 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 spin. It's just a habit. When I do my thing, I go around with like a finger trick, and it doesn't matter. But we're just going to do it like this. Think of it in two halves. You're only spinning the right side, and you're only spinning the top, right? Excuse me. So because of that, you have to know that there's no primes in the top. When you're doing regular soon, you're only using your right hand to flick, which is going to be a clockwise turn. So the top, once you do the top, you're only going like this. Boom, 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 boom. That's the pattern. Boom, 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 boom. Okay? The right, you're going forward, back, forward, back. And you're doing them at the same time. Because as you go forward, you're hitting the spin. Okay? So boom, 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 boom. So you can kind of think of it like that. Every time you do a move, you're gonna flick the top. Flick the top. Then the third one, flick, flick, and flick the top again. So forward, back, forward, back. That's all that's doing, okay? So to put it into an algorithm for you, like I said, R up, R prime up, R up 2, R prime up. Or I'm sorry, R prime. I always add the little just because my fingers are used to turning it. It doesn't matter because the last layer is not solved. If you turn it once, twice extra, it doesn't matter. But literally, it's R up, R prime up, R up, up, and then you're just bringing R back, okay? So once again, feel the pattern. You have to feel it. This hand is just going front, back, front, back. That's it, front, back, okay? And this top is just doing flick, 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 okay? So the move is flick, 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 and bring it back. So let's do that. We're going to do that, and we're going to do that learning just that algorithm. That's all. Now, there's things to do. This is called bow tie because it looks like one. So there's an algorithm you can do that turns it all, because the goal of the last layer is AoLong, which means turn this all yellow, orient last layer, and then move the pieces around, okay? So we're gonna turn it all yellow, and using just the one move though, and then we'll get fancy in the next video and learn the different tricks for different cases. But in this video, it's for quickly learning how to solve the cube, learning as few moves as possible. So we just want to do this knowing this one move, okay? This is part 2 of two-step AoLong, remember. So I'm going to do that move that I did. Flick, 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 and bring it back. And then I look and see what I got, okay? And what I'm looking for is what's called a soon pattern, okay? A soon pattern. A soon pattern is a fish. It basically looks like this. This is actually anti-soon, which is a soon with a different variant. But let me explain. You're looking for exactly this pattern. This is a fish. There's the fins, and there's the body of the fish. It looks like an arrow. What you do is you point that in the lower left, like this. And then you tilt up and look at this cube right here. If yellow is pointing towards you, that's soon. That's what you want. If yellow is pointing away, it is anti-soon, okay? So that's okay. We'll leave it here, and we'll do the move again. Flick, 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 and bring it back. And what do we have now? There's our fish. Where are we supposed to point the fish? In the lower left. Let's spin this guy around and point him in the lower left. tilt them up, and now look at that. We have soon. Soon means you have this pattern, this fish pattern, this arrow with fins. It's a distinct pattern. You'll learn to spot this a mile away, okay? It looks just like that, a distinct pattern. You point it in the lower left, you look at this cube, and now I have yellow pointing towards me. That means this is soon. This is called soon, S-U-N-E. What I do here is I hold the cube just like this with this pointing this way and this yellow pointing towards me, and I do the same move I just showed you. Flick, 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 bring it back, and that turns the whole thing yellow, okay? Simple as that. That's it. So, for example, let's do something different. Okay, so let's say I got the cross, because we're working on stage 2 now. So I get here. What do I do? Well, what do I have? I have just a cross. So I will do anywhere. I can do it here, here. It doesn't matter. I'm going to do that one move. Flick, 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 flick. Or if I say with the proper nomenclature or the proper algorithm, it would be R up, R prime up, R up 2, and bring back R. And I look around, well, what do you know? I have soon. And it's even pointed the right way. It's pointed right towards me, which is what I want. Lower left, it's pointing. I look up and I have soon. So I do the same move again. R up, R prime up, R up, up, R prime to bring it back. And it turns it all yellow. Okay, so that's it for OLL. You can do it with the one move. Do it over and over and over until you get it. Okay, so now we have our OLL done. It's all yellow. So the second step, so now we do PLL. Once again, to look, there's 2 stages. The first stage is making sure the corners are in the correct place. The second stage is whatever's left, moving the pieces around, and then the cube is solved. Okay, so first thing I do, you can have adjacent corners, which would mean that you'd have to do this twice. Once again, we're doing each step with one algorithm. It's not the most efficient way. It's not the fastest. You won't do a 20-second solve with it probably, but you should be able to solve the cube in under a minute, believe it or not, doing this, learning just the one algorithm per step, okay? Then once you go from there and you can solve it, then you can add more, which would cut your times down even more. So what I'm going to do, once this is OLL is done, I look for 2 cubes. In this case, I've got 2 corners here. I'm going to put them where they go over orange. And that means I've got 2 corners that are correct. See, this is correct. This is correct. That means I've got 2 that aren't, right? So I take my correct corners and I put them in the back. Then I do like an X turn, I believe it's called, where you're rotating like the whole cube. And I'm going to take my top yellow face and I'm going to, once these cubes are in the back, I'm going to turn it, the whole cube, towards me. So now the cubes are facing up. So now what's happened is yellow becomes my front face. It's no longer my top, okay? Orange is my top face. And red is my bottom face here, okay? And green is right and blue is left. So I'm holding the cube now like this. So what I want to do is, with the 2 cubes solved on top, is I want to do this pattern here. I'm going to set this down for a sec and don't disturb it. And I'm going to use this other cube. I'm going to do this pattern here. That's it. And ready to write this down. What it is, remember, I do it by pattern. I don't use I don't remember it by algorithm, but I can probably walk it through it. So let me do it once. Boom, 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 oops, boom. Okay, so what it's going to be is R prime down, R prime up 2, R down, R prime up 2, and R2 to line it back up, okay? So once again, okay, it's R prime down, R prime up 2, R down prime, R prime up 2, and R2. Okay? So I go by feel. Like I just feel that. I don't think of it's just, to me, it's more, you know, like flick, 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 flick. I look at the symmetry first. Like, what am I doing with this hand? What am I doing with that hand? And so forth. And I do it by pattern and feel, which, you know, you will eventually too. But that's, so once again, we take our 2 pieces, we put them in the back, we turn the cube so yellow faces us, and we do the same pattern that I showed you, which is, I'll do it fairly slow. Ready? It's boom, 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 boom. Okay? And that should put all the corners in place. That is all you have to do for that, really. Let me see if I can get a case where no corners are solved. I got blue. Red. Sometimes you'll have a case where, because in this case I got red is solved, so I'll move red up here and put it in back and tilt it and do my move. Sometimes you don't have to start off with. You have to this way. And all that means is you have to do the move twice. So just at that point, if say these 2 were correct, it doesn't matter where they go, just anywhere, you just do the same. You just do your, and magically 2 will be correct, okay? You take your 2 that are correct, you line them up, put them in the back, rotate the cube so that yellow's facing you. Now the 2 solved cubes are on top, and you do that same pattern, which is R prime down, R prime up 2, R down prime, R prime up 2, and R2 to line it back up. And when you do that, your corners will be in place, okay? Now that your corners are in place, so that's pretty much it. So now, I mean, that's just one algorithm, okay? So you might have to do it twice, hopefully. Usually you have to do it once, but you might have to do it twice. So now we're on the last step, which solves the cube. Okay, part 2 of PLL. Once again, as I promised, we'll try to do this with one algorithm. All it means is that you may have to do the algorithm more than once, but instead of learning a bunch, which we're going to do in the advanced video or the part 2 video, so you can solve it even faster, you should be able to solve it even learning like the one algorithm per part, just having to do it maybe twice instead of once. It shouldn't affect your time. I mean, if you're doing an algorithm like 1 and same thing, 2, I mean, it adds another 2 seconds, right? It's not going to be the end of the world. You can still solve it in less than a minute, okay? So we're looking for a case like this where you have, you have your white solved, of course. You have a solid back somewhere, a solid color, which leaves you with only 3 cubes that have to be moved, okay? So if you don't have that, you'll just do the same move until you do have it, okay? So you're going to either have to do it 1, 2, or at the most 3 times, depending. So what you do, if you have it already, as I do here, you take your solved color and you put it in the back. White's in the bottom, you're holding the cube as normal. You put the solved color in the back, and you do this particular move. I'll do it on this cube here, okay? It's just here, here, here. It's a little strange move, but if I had to break it down into an algorithm, write this down. This is the algorithm for it. It is, let's see, let me do it first, because I do it by pattern, not by algorithm. So it is right up prime, right up, right up, right up prime, right prime, up prime, right 2. Okay? So I do that. I put the solve side in the back, and I do that same pattern here. And that time it solved the cube. Sometimes it won't. Sometimes it will be, let me give you an example. Okay, so if I just did it now, I would have to do it twice. So I put the solve side in the back. I do the same move. And I notice it's not solved. So I do it again, solve side and back. Now it'll solve. See? So if by chance it's something that is different, like this, like you have no solved sides whatsoever, okay? In the part 2 video, we're going to learn different moves that will solve that. But in this video, the goal is to give you just a few moves you have to learn so you can solve the whole cube. So in this, what do? We do that same move we just learned before. We just do it, since there's no back, we just do it anywhere. It doesn't matter if this is forward, it doesn't matter. You just spin it, pick a side, and do the same move. So it's going to be the same move that we just did. And what is that going to do? It's going to produce a solved side. So we take that solved side and we put it in back, and we're probably going to have to do the move twice. And no, we just did it once. Awesome. Awesome. Depending, yeah, that's right. If we do it off that, we have to do it once. If we do it off, let's see here. If we do it off something like this, okay, so here's another case where nothing's solved. So I do that same move. And that gives me one side, green. I put green in the back, and I do the same move again. And it still solved it. You know, I guess I don't know. I thought there was a case where you had to do it 3 times from there. But irregardless, that is it. That one movement, this here, is all you have to learn to solve the second part of PLL, okay? The one movement. Just practice it over and over. It is a strange movement. It's not as intuitive as F2L, where you're just, you know, flick up, flick back, flick up, flick back. I mean, that's so easy, right? You learn it in like 2 minutes. This is kind of oddball, especially the ending. You know, you're going like that, and that's fine. And then flick, flick, that's fine. But then it just seems a little strange, right? So in the other video, we're going to go over different ways and couple different patterns that an alternative to doing that. Plus, if it's done, like for example, this here, if you have something like this here, you can solve it by just doing what I just did, just the middle layers, right? See, it solves the whole thing. Or same thing here. This one's not, it's just a different kind of pattern. So, and it solves it also, but those that's learning different things. We're just gonna do it, just doing the same one that we've been doing, okay? The one pattern is gonna work for any case. It's gonna produce, if we had one of the other cases, it's gonna produce this. Once we have a solid back, we put it in the back and we do the same pattern, right? And if it doesn't solve it, we do it again. Solve side in the back, and we do the same thing again. And it can be solved. And you can do, I mean, you can get a little quick with it. You know, it's not a super fast one, but you can, you know, I mean, you can get good times solving. You can get under a minute with just the basic moves that I showed you, you should be able to solve the cube in, you should get your times down to right around a minute, easy. In a lot of cases, you know, 40 seconds, 45, 50. And then once you add the other ones, depending how fast you are at moving the cube around, you'll get in the 30s, and yeah, then you'll start getting, you know, it's not going to be a 5-second. Those are very specialized movements and people that have memorized a lot of things, and they're so good at, you know, that's like a full-time professional cuber guy that's going to be able to do it in 5 seconds, right? So, but using this method, number one, you can solve the cube, and number two, you can solve it in less than a minute. A lot of cases, 30, 40, 50 seconds, okay? So that's it. Look for part 2 to the video, which will be a lot of other tips and tricks on different patterns and recognizing different patterns and things that will allow you to solve it and get your time down even more. Okay, thanks.